All right, I'm going to delve a little bit into the idea of songwriting, try to take some of the mystery out of it. There's all kinds of formulas, there's all kinds of ways that people will tell you, and they'll tell you you need some great, amount of music theory in order to write songs. Mostly you can write nice music just by what you hear, making it sound good to your ear, because that's really the bottom line. Music theory explains what the musician has already done. Music theory doesn't create music, music is created by the musician. So, without getting into a long diatribe there, there's a very basic piece of information that you need to know to write a song and get you started. And you can get as exotic as you want with chords, but if you know how to build a major chord and a minor chord, then you can create music that's really pleasing to the ear and maybe make your own backing tracks. So in this scenario, I'm using Sonar Platinum, and you can use any digital audio workstation of choice. Studio One has a free version out that's pretty good. There's also, demo versions of this one. There's a Reaper. There's a number of them out there. So you pick the one that you really like and go with that one. But the principles are the same on how to use them. So I'm going to start. First off, I'm just going to show you how to build a major and a minor chord. To build a major chord, you just pick a note. Doesn't matter what the note is. You pick one. I'm going to pick it on 3 here because I'm going to set a loop. And to set a loop in Sonar, you just select your region and then hit the button and you have a loop. Similar in any other software. So in order to do a major chord, you need to count 4 and then 3. And, I know that that doesn't line up with what notation and all that music theory would tell you to build a major chord, but you can consider each one of these as a tone or a semitone. If you count up 4, not counting the root note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you put a note there. And then you count 1, 2, 3, and put a note there. Now you have a major chord. And we don't care what that chord is because we're just going to write a song. And when we decide what flute we're going to use, then that becomes more important to put it in the right key for the flute that you have. So there's a major chord. So you use 4 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and then 1, 2, 3 to the next note. Now to build a minor chord, you just reverse the 4 and the 3. You count 3 and then 4. So if you put your root note in, now you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you have a minor chord. Versus a major chord. Now let's hear those two playing together. See what they sound like. Okay, so they actually sound pretty decent together. So let's just try using a minor scale. Let's try adding a note here. We'll start with the root note C, and then we'll go to the using a minor pentatonic scale. Now I know that'll sound good across the first chord. Let's repeat it. Now let's hear that. Now it doesn't sound bad, but what if we take this minor note here and make it 4, in keeping with the building of the chord? Now let's listen to it. So they both sounded okay. I think the second one sounded better. And how it sounds to your ear is what's important. So let's take this note and move it down. We're just experimenting. Let's hear what it sounds like now. So that didn't sound too awful bad. So it sounds good in any one of those 3 positions. I'm just going to move it down one more. It obviously didn't sound real pleasant. There might be a place where you'd want some kind of a dissonance and all that, but it doesn't sound that good. So what notes am I playing? Nobody cares. Does it sound good? This particular one doesn't sound real good to me, so I think it sounds good there is the best. How about if we move it up to there? Let's listen to that. Okay, so we've started building a melody, and that's at the heart of songwriting. You pick a couple of chords that you like, you build yourself a chord progression. Don't care what chords they are. You've got a major chord and a minor chord. That's enough to start building the song. Okay, so let's go into this chord idea a little bit. What chords do I use? You know, that's a question. It's a valid question. So with 2 modes, minor and major, obviously you have 2 choices. You can go from minor to a major or major to a minor. So in this case, we're going major to minor, and we're going 0 steps. We haven't really changed the root note. So let's try M1M, that's minor, change it by 1 tone we're going major to minor. So major, change it by 1 tone. So let's take these and move them up 1 tone. Now what chord is that? Nobody cares. If it sounds good, great. Let's listen. Okay, that sounds kind of ominous, but let's throw some music in there and see what we get. So we're in a major mode, so let's start with a major. If we remember that was part of the major, we had the minor, so like here and 1, 2, 3, and then the major is 4. And okay, so let's hear those 2, and then we'll go to the minor mode here. Now let's hear that. Okay, so the second one sounded kind of off. A little bit of dissonance, discord, whatever term you might want to apply to it, but it didn't sound bad. It just didn't sound real melodic. So, you know, the what you're trying for in the music, if you want a sweet, really, really harmonious sound, this is not the combination. But we'll just move that note 1 down and see what it sounds like. doesn't sound good at all. So, but if you've noticed, we're trying to work out of a C major, and we've gone to a half step up would be a C sharp, and then a minor. So we can't really stay in the major scale there. But again, getting away from music theory, let's just find a note that sounds good. Let's try that. It didn't sound real good. Let's try the root of that second chord and see what it sounds like. We're one octave up. Let's try that. Didn't sound bad. Let's try the second note. Okay, that sounds better. Let's try a C. It's kind of a one half step away from the root, but let's see what it sounds like. Not good. So we have some limitations. Let's try that one just for giggles. Let's move it again. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is we're not going to get a real nice melodious sound here because we're just going a half step up to a minor mode. It's giving a real ominous sound, and it's not very melodic. So to try and find a melodious melody for that, a harmonious melody, is going to be difficult. But you can write a piece of pretty drastic music this way. Okay, so let's go back to the chord idea. Let's take these two chords. This is a major and a minor. We're one interval apart. Let's call it an interval, one tone. Let's move it up one more. Now we got an interval of 1, 2. Major mode to minor mode. Let's listen. That sounds pretty pleasant. I can hear melodies forming in my mind already. Let's move it up one more. So some of these may not sound like anything familiar, but listen to the tones on their own merit. Just listen to them. Do they sound good together is the question. I think they'll sound good together. Again, it's getting kind of the foreboding, the ominous sound, but it does work together. Let's move it up one more. Now let's try that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know that 1, 2, 3, and 4 work well. Let's try 5. Okay, it works. Let's try 6. I could hear that playing in a fantasy movie or a sci-fi movie, maybe that chord progression, come up with some corresponding melody that sounds good with it. Let's try one more. I think we're at 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's try 7. An interval of 7, major to minor. That also sounds good. Let's try the next one. This would be what, 8? I could hear possibilities there. It's not real standard sounding, but it sounds okay. Let's try the next one. Let's just try that now. I can hear possibilities there for melodies too. Let's try, we should be at what, 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, we're at 10. Let's listen to 10. I could also hear some possibilities there, some kind of a mysterious setting, a mystery type movie or something. Let's try one more, which is two more up, and we'd be back at an octave. So let's try. That should be 11. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, that sounds a little bit unusual, but it's not impossible to work with. It has a sound to it. So you just repeat that chord, and you set a theme, and then you start playing whatever instrument you're on. Find the right one for the key that you've written the song in, and then go from there. Interesting to note, though, the closer this root note is to the major root note, the more ominous or mysterious or out there it sounds. The closer you get to the middle of the octave range, the more it seems to sound pleasant to the ear. Okay, so let's repeat this. We'll bring this out here and loop it. And let's just hear it repeating a little bit and listen to that sound. Okay, so let's add now a third chord, and I think what we'll do is we'll stay with the minor just for an experiment. Let's stay with the minor. We'll highlight these and copy them, and then let's move it 1, 2, 3, 4, just the same as the interval between this one and this one. Let's move it 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going from a major to a minor, 4 intervals apart, major to a minor repeating, and then another minor 4 apart. Let's see if it sounds good. What chord is it? I have no idea. It doesn't clash with the ear, but it doesn't sound great, at least in my opinion, for what I would hear in my head. So let's just move it down one just to see what it sounds like. Let's try that, see how it sounds. Okay, that doesn't sound real bad. Let's try putting a melody with it. Let's see. We're on the C note here. I can see it right on the side there. So let's start with 1, 2, 3, 4, a major sound because it's a major chord. Okay, and we will do 3. We'll follow that chord building idea. And then we're going to a minor sound here. So we'll go with that repeating note there, and just for the giggles, let's just try repeating that line. Let's hear that verse 2. Now let's change it up a little bit. We have 2 repeating. Let's drop this into here. Let's make a long note here. And I'm just making stuff up here. I mean, we can move these around. Let's just hear what this sounds like. Okay, this space in here seemed a little bit empty to me, so let's cut that and see if we can maybe make that more interesting. So let's maybe, and then I'll cut it again. and move it back. Now let's hear that. I'm just making. I could do this on the piano, but I'm doing it visually here with the mouse. Okay, that's the odd sounding chord, so that's the one we're going to have to work with. So I want to just loop this from 9. Let's see here, right here. And let's just play with that till it sounds good. Let's find some notes that sound good with it. What note are we putting in? Who knows? Okay, that sounds good with those two together. Let's loop it now, see if it makes a nice loop. Well, they don't sound too bad. Let's play around with this second set of notes here. Let's move them all up. Just let's move this one where it starts with that and keep these intervals here because they sounded good together. Let's see how that sounds now. These two notes here sounded kind of off, so let's move them down 1 just to stay on the white keys, so to speak. Let's see how that sounds. So let's move this one down 1. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, so what I've done here then is I've taken a major and a minor chord and I've just arbitrarily picked 2 chords, put them together, and then I put a third chord in there. I chose it to be a minor, and then I just kind of come up with a melody. I started somewhere, doesn't matter where you start with a note that sounds good, and then you put in a second note and you change that note till it sounds good. Then you play another note, change it until it sounds good. That is songwriting. You may hear the melody in your head ahead of time, but you also may just need to make it up as you go. Uh, Minimal music theory involved here. It's simply how do you build a major chord? How do you build a minor chord? And then you put those together in whatever intervals you want. And in whatever interval you decide to use, you just pick a note that sounds good when it goes to that chord. That's the whole secret to songwriting. There is no more. There's formula songs, that you can use standard chord progressions that have been real popular down through the years, or you can make something up like I just did here. If you're going to tailor it to a Native American flute, then you may want to consider what chords you're actually playing, because it has to be harmonious with the scale that you are locked into on the flute. But you've got major and minor modes. That's the two basic modes. You can do major sevenths and all that. Some of the exotic chords. If you listen right here in this song, this note right here takes this minor chord and makes it into some kind of an exotic. Take a listen. I have no idea what that chord is, but it's beautiful. Let's listen to what this note does to the minor chord. Stays a minor. How about this one? Another minor, so it's staying minor. How about over here? That's changing the chord a little bit. So I've actually made up a few new chords in there, because the melody playing across the chord is essentially, it's playing with harmonies and all of that. Also is making some interesting chords. I could take that chord right there that sounds so good, or that one right there. I could take that chord and make that the basis for a song. It's a beautiful chord. So that's songwriting in a nutshell. What if we had started that note somewhere else? Let's try it. Now let's listen to it. We'll just put that note somewhere else. Okay, let's try moving this note down. Now let's try it. Let's take the second note and move it. Let's try that. All right, so if you've got a piano, you can use these ideas with the piano, or you can fire up a DAW like the one I'm using here. Get into that piano roll view and start creating chords, and then put some melody notes with it. When it sounds good to you, render it out as a song. If I wanted to change keys, I would call this the key of C major, because it starts on a C major, and because the root note is C and you're using a triad. But if I wanted to make this for my flute that's in the key of D, I can slide everything up to D. And now I've got it in D major. Okay, just for giggles, I want to try something here. I'm going to change it from major to minor, minor to major. I'm going to leave that one a minor just because I think it might work. This may not sound good. I just want to try an experiment. Here we go. Doesn't sound good. So all that means is I wouldn't do that in a song because it don't sound good. There's no rocket science there. Doesn't take a major in music theory to figure out that doesn't sound good. It sounds more pleasant going major to minor with the melody that I've constructed. Now I can put the minor first and then construct a minor melody on the first chord and go into the major sounds on the second chord. It's just whatever you decide to do. But the point I'm making here on this whole thing is this melody and chord progression was made up from scratch with a very limited understanding of music theory. I literally just built two chords, kind of arbitrarily figured out how far apart to put them on the scales, the intervals, and then I just put in some melodies. I started putting notes in and moving them till they sounded good. And that is at the heart of songwriting right there. If you can get a melody that's kind of like a hook line that sticks in a person's mind, then you've got a winning song. Otherwise, you've just got some pretty background music. Though anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on songwriting, just from a very rudimentary process. You can obviously elaborate on all of this and, change it up, fix it, whatever you need to do to fit your flute, or you can cross finger and make your flute fit this song, just whatever you want to do. But just writing a song on the piano, there's as hard as it gets right there. So if you've enjoyed this, great. If not, I'll put out another one of these days. Maybe it'll be better. Thanks.